Welcome, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be with you, Maureen Kaiser. And Maureen was a vocal major at Music and Art, and you have quite a story about how you got to Music and Art, what it took on a daily basis to get to Music and Art. And Maureen works for the New York City Department of Education, and you work in special ed. She's working on her second master's. That's really quite impressive and sounds pretty daunting. And the first thing you told me about yourself was that you have two grown children, two grown sons, who you said are your pride and joy. So tell us about your kids.
Wow, they really are. My eldest is Christopher. He will be 28 in August. I'm not quite sure how that actually happened. And and he's a music teacher. He's a musician, and he's in a bunch of bands. He's recording currently some new material. So I'm really proud of him, and I think I kind of want to be him when I grow up. So no, he's awesome. My younger son, just as awesome, but completely different character. He just graduated from Cortland, and he's my athlete. Loves football. Loves pretty much any kind of ball. And he's looking into physical therapy schools. So it's just great.
That's a great thing.
Really proud.
For any of us who've ever been in need of a good physical therapist, we know how important it is when you find someone.
For sure. Well, I think I might have mentioned this to you when we were chatting last time, is what's awesome is I have it kind of planned out. So when I get old and gray, I have one child who's going to make sure that the body is working and I get a little exercise in, and the other one can serenade me. I think that works out for me.
You and your musician's son, did you share that growing up?
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
How so?
Well, at one point, I had left the Board of Ed for a while, and I was actually both of my children's music teacher. I was freelancing as a music teacher at nursery schools and childcare centers, and they were part of it. And I worked as their camp music person, which was great because they went for free. My pay was their tuition. So it worked out. And then through the years, we've actually done some duets. We're kind of ham bones in our family, so any opportunity to sing together, we love it.
So do you do that as a family when you all get together? Is there someone with a guitar, someone at the piano, and you all make music and sing together?
Yeah, guilty as charged.
That sounds amazing. What kind of music do you make together?
Well, it's not really making music. It's more of just like, let's just hang out and sing. It's usually my Chris will start.
Yeah.
And then I'll sing, and then whoever else is there. I have a couple of cousins who might chime in with a harmony part. Wow. Usually it's just piano and guitar.
Yeah.
I used to play guitar, but what I realized is, like with everything else, if you don't kind of put the work in, you only get so far. Yeah. So if you want to hear me play the meanest version of Old MacDonald Had a Farm, The Wheels on the Bus, I mean, that was my main audience, like pre-K. Yeah. I was fantastic.
Wow.
But then once it got a little bit more complicated, I was kind of out. But my Christopher plays everything. He plays, I'm trying to think. I mean, pretty much every instrument. I mean, he just,
wow.
He's amazing.
What do you sing together? What kind of music? What songs?
Pop. Yeah, some Broadway stuff. Any opportunity that we get a chance to do that, we find time to do that.
That's beautiful. I'm getting a weird reverb from your computer, I think. I don't know if there's a way to deal with that.
Is it still there? Or
I sound like remember Orson from Mork from Ork?
Yes.
That's how I sound. But I'm not hearing that, which is cool.
Okay,
I grew up
good.
with my I played piano, and I grew up with my grandparents, and my grandfather was a huge fan of Tin Pan Alley and the American Songbook. So I'd be working on my Mozart or my Beethoven, whatever, and he'd come over and he'd say, "Hey, can you play this?" And it would be something like Manhattan Serenade or Rodgers and Hart song. And,
right.
And he would sing it, and he loved it. I mean, I liked it. He loved it. It was a great source of joy. I can only imagine what a source of joy it is for you. So
Well, I
here's,
think my family being, Irish, and especially if you put a couple of drinks in them, oh, they will start, singing all the Irish songs, and it's a lot of fun. But even now, even if drinking is not involved,
yeah,
um, it's just fun. And my son and I have also done a lot of music together at our church, so it's just wonderful. I
that,
love the fact that has kind of through the generations.
that's beautiful. And
Yeah.
do you share any of the sports interests with your younger son?
Um, I love baseball. We're both pretty big Mets fans, and we were really yes, we were.
LFGM, baby,
Yes,
LFGM.
exactly. We got to stick together. There's not really a lot of us. I got to tell you, most people you talk to are like, eh.
Yeah.
Um, Nothing made me so like more proud to watch him, play ball when he was in high school.
Yeah.
Um, it's awesome, and it's so funny because, as you know, you have two sons as well, correct?
Yep.
That just when you figure them out, they change. I would have always said that my older son, because we share a lot of commonality and common interests, we're so much alike. But our personalities are really different. And I had less in common with my younger son, but sometimes he'll say something or do something. I'm like, oh man, he's me, So it's just kind of funny.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful and a mystery.
Yes, it really is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me ask you something. If we're doing your math, if you have a 28-year-old son, that means you were having your kids when, a lot of us were doing different things in our 20s. Some
Right.
of us were in school, some of us were starting careers, some of us were figuring life out, some of us were just kind of pulling ourselves up. And you had your two kids. And tell us about the twists and turns of your path. Everyone has the twists and turns.
Yes, it's true. I am no different than anybody else, and everyone has their journey and everyone has their struggles and their joys. And definitely I got married young and I was completely in love. I had my boys young. I always thought that I would be a performer or doing it more professionally, and it's just somehow it didn't really go in that direction. Professionally, that is, but music and performing, whether that has to do with jobs that I've had, whether that's with community theater, whether that's with the church, whether that's with just other avenues that I've always been doing. Well, as I said, I got married young, and unfortunately, this wasn't part of my plan. But 23 and a half years later, that marriage imploded. And I really fell into kind of a dark headspace. I was kind of depressed. I was really anxious. And I was able to, thankfully, turn things around. I found my smile again. And it catapulted me actually to try to reinvent myself or perhaps do some of the things that I had wanted to do and for whatever reason never got to. And some of those things, or the twists and turns, I took additional classes just because. I finished a behavioral certificate that I just was interested in. I did some stand-up comedy, which was fantastic. I wasn't necessarily really good, but I had fun and I felt like I learned a lot. I did some improv comedy, which was really hard. Like, wow. But it taught me life lessons. I know that's like really real comedy, how are you getting so heavy with this? But it was literally like, listen to your partner. Take your time. I mean, simple things like that. It was just such a great mind shift for me. So, yeah, I mean, that's some of the twists and turns. And again, like most of us, my life isn't exactly a straight line. I've changed jobs a few times. Again, I'm kind of reinventing myself again with this second master's. I wasn't able to get a full-time counseling degree. I was able to do some of it on the side, which was great. But now I feel like I would like to get to a point that if I ever would like to retire, I can, get a teaching job, and that's my hope. So I'll be dually certified in general and special ed.
That's amazing. So
Thank you.
I want to go back to something you just said. Just a
Hmm.
couple of little things, observations. I actually, I love comedy. We all love comedy, but
Hmm.
I really like to geek out on it, and I love it when comics, and Jerry Seinfeld has done this a lot.
Oh,
They'll talk about the process of it, and it sounds like, look, I mean, you're very funny. We can all be funny in person. But to actually go up and do it professionally, the way comics talk about it sounds horribly frightening. And they talk about it as basically just showing your darkest, most mean, most base self, which is real because it has to be real on some level
yes.
in front of people. And that actually writing the comedy, I talked about this with Elaine Breyer, is
Hmm.
so incredibly difficult and painful. And yet for you, it sounds like it was really cathartic.
It was both. It is ridiculously hard. It is cathartic. Um, but at the same time, and I mean, this is like kind of part of the new Maureen initiative, as I call it. Like, I am choosing, even if things are tough or uncomfortable or getting me out of my comfort zone, what am I learning here? And I've discovered that, wow, that's that was really much more difficult than I thought, but I loved it. I really do enjoy writing.
Yeah.
And again, one of the when I was taking the classes, one of the teachers said, he's looking at all of us and he's like, you know what, you're probably not even the funniest one in your family. And I'm not. But how many of them are taking the risk and getting up on that stage?
Right.
And I said, okay. But see, being on a stage or being a performer or whatever, that's kind of, second nature for me. So that part I wasn't really nervous about. And singing, I always felt pretty comfortable.
Mhm.
Acting was another kind of part of that. But
Mhm.
comedy is really that's tough.
Yeah.
You almost feel like this responsibility, like, okay, you're having a really crummy day. Let me try to, make you feel better. It's like I felt this a little bit of pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, someone like, yeah, I just happened to see an early clip of Chris Rock that
Mhm.
a musician who I'm Facebook friends with um, put on online. And this is Chris Rock from 1987. And seeing that made me realize I saw him in 1986 at Catch a Rising
Wow.
Star.
Yeah.
And, because there was a bit in the 87 bit, I said, I saw that bit. And I always
Oh, how
wondered with all
funny.
these years. But, Chris Rock gets up there. It looks so easy. Dave Chappelle gets up there, and it looks like he's just kind of
Hmm.
lazing through a monologue. And you
Correct.
realize,
Hmm.
I've never done it, right? I don't know if I ever want to do it, but
Right.
listening to you
But
talk
it is
about it makes
choice of words. Sometimes it is just kind of you're telling a story.
yeah,
Well, it's similar in music or when you're singing.
yeah,
Whether you wrote the song or not, you try to make those lyrics your own. You're
hmm
telling a story that
yeah,
you hope will motivate, move, touch, in some way.
yeah,
Acting, it is also even if you're a different character, you're kind of bringing something to it. But comedy, it's all kind of connected. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. So it sounds like you've done some acting over the years as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
I have done.
what
Well, mostly, nothing. I mean, nothing crazy. Mostly community theater, and some of my favorite parts that I have gotten to play were well. One of my first leads was Sandy in Greece.
no way.
Yeah. And it's so
Wow.
funny because my running joke now is if somehow I were to audition for, and they were going to hire older, but for the leads, I wasn't going to be the principal, I would be Rizzo. Like, I feel like I would not be Sandy anymore. I feel like I've kind of, changed a lot. I was such an innocent,
No.
I fit that part really well when I played it. But
But
one
when
of
you
my
played it, when you played Sandy, did you find it to be this? I haven't seen Grease in a billion years,
yeah,
but when you played Sandy, did you find it to be a really sort of demeaning, sexist role?
not at all.
No.
But of course, maybe because my Danny Zuko ended up being my boyfriend. So like I think, so I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And with that same boyfriend,
Yeah.
we did another show together, Little Shop of Horrors, and I was
Wow.
Audrey.
Wow.
So that was really fun, and that was a lot more a physical
Mhm.
role, and makeup and hair and wigs and everything really helped bring the character to life. So that was fun. But
Wow.
I've done a lot of other little things, and even through my church, part of the ministries that I'm part of is not only music, but I also started, well, I don't know if I started it, but I've continued it through the years, writing and directing, some little vignettes or skits. And I have like some children's work that I've done as well as, for adults. And it's nice. I was always so nervous, like, how am I going to be as a director? Like, I don't want to be a beast and like start yelling at people. And like, that's not who I want to show up as. I want to be able to bring out the best in you. But at the same time, okay, come on, people, work with me. We got to get this together.
So you started doing directing for theater that you would do as part of your church community?
Yes.
What was
Yes.
that like to cross that line?
Like I said, it was a little bit interesting because I didn't want it to be like, okay, this is the Maureen show, and like, I wanted to keep it like, what's this about? We're going to try to bring people in the congregation closer to God and closer to one another. And whether I wrote the script or whether I found a pretty good piece of material, I found it wonderful to work with people. Some I knew pretty well, but some people I might have seen them from across the congregation and would just like wave at them, but I got to see them and get to know them in a different way. And it's awesome. It's great.
Wow. So it's kind of amazing. You've sung musical theater roles, you've
Mm-hmm.
acted,
Yes.
you've performed music, and you've taught music,
Yes.
and you've directed.
Yes.
And you've done stand-up comedy and improv comedy.
Yeah.
Is any of that work calling to you to continue to pursue and continue to develop your own sense of craft about?
That's an excellent, excellent question. Of all the things that I've mentioned, well, yeah, I can't even say that. I'm interested when an opportunity arises and my priorities are straight. I mean, I realize right now I'm inundated with working 2 jobs and school. So some of those more fun and creative outlets, I know I have to kind of keep them at bay, and I'll get to them. But I still sing with my church. I would like to do some more acting. And I feel like I've been sort of pigeonholed. The last couple of parts that were given me were more comedic, and I love it. I'm going to tell you, I'm itching to do like a real straight, serious role.
Wow.
I know I have it in me, and I'm looking forward to, doing that. And you know what? If time allows, I would love to work on a little more of my writing for some comedy stuff. So who knows what the future will hold for me.
That sounds great. Elaine Breyer talked about having to write her own material.
Mm-hmm.
And she talked about how much she actually hates sitting in front of the blank computer screen and the incredibly difficult feelings that come up when she has to do that. Jerry Seinfeld, on the other hand, has his own little studio apartment on the Upper West Side where he goes every day with a yellow legal pad and writes by hand.
Right.
Do you like writing? Or I shouldn't say do you like writing.
I am more of a pen and paper.
Yeah.
I'm old school when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it kind of helps me somehow sort out and compartmentalize what my thoughts are and where I'm going and where I'm headed. But then again, I'm not the most tech savvy, so that might explain that,
Yeah. Would you be willing to tell us about your church, your spiritual life, and
Oh, sure. my faith has always been a big part of who I am and what I'm about.
Mhm.
And I was born and raised Catholic, and I still feel like I could go into any church for that matter, but particularly a Roman Catholic church, and feel fine. But through the years, again, maybe part of those twists and turns, I found myself in a more like non-denominational church. And what I love about it in particular is no matter what your background is, whether it is more liturgical or sacramental, like a Roman Catholic church, okay, we have a little bit of that. If you're really into prayer and the Bible and teaching, well, we got some of that too. And if you're really into some Holy Ghost music and people just woohoo, having a really great time and full of like that energy, we got that too. So for me, it's sort of this wonderful uh, melting pot, nice little marriage of something that's helped me in my life tremendously and has given me comfort and peace and wisdom. And I don't want to get overly corny, but it's been great. And I'm not gonna say that I like walk this out in my life perfectly, and I am definitely a work in progress for sure. But I don't know what I, if I didn't have this relationship with God, if I didn't choose to trust and feel that he's got me, I don't have to understand, or I don't even have to like everything that's going on, but I just have sort of an inner calm
Mhm.
and an inner knowing that it is well
Mhm.
and it will be well. And I just, but again, sometimes it's a little bit of work
Mhm.
to stay in that place. I need to be really intentional because I'm sure all of us, particularly with this pandemic, particularly with just living in New York, just stress. Um, I when I put one foot in front of the other. We take it one day at a time and just say, all right, God, help me be the person you want me to be. I'm golden.
Mhm.
So,
And it sounds like the particular community you're with, because you know, when you describe it as a place where it doesn't matter what your background is or what you're into, I imagine that the tone of that is one that just makes it accepting in general. So do you feel like you can be the person who you are with all your blessings and all your struggles and
correct.
everything together, like we all have? Yeah.
And it's wonderful because, um, yeah, a good meeting space for anyone is where you feel safe and you can be your best and your worst. But when you are struggling or when you are in that kind of hurting spot, which I've definitely through the years have gone through some yucky stuff, people know me. So I can't get away with like, oh yeah, how you doing, Maureen? No, I'm good. No, no, I'm good. No, no, you're not good. What's going on?
Yeah.
And it is all really about relationship.
Yeah.
That's really, and it's been such a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds beautiful. We
Thank you.
all want a place where we can go and be authentic and where people know us and we know them, and it's really
Yes.
deep. It's really deep. Um, let's talk about you're going to M&A, because
Sure.
there's something here. You know, we've been talking about art, we've been talking about your spiritual life, and now to
Yeah.
do it in reverse. Because remember, you told me that you grew up going to Catholic school, and the first time you stepped out of Catholic school
Oh,
was going to
yes.
M&A. Tell us what that whole thing was about, where you grew up, and
So, yeah. So, I mean, a couple of things really just stand out in particular. I had complete culture shock going into Harlem. What? I mean, it was just like the fact that my parents allowed it. I had to take a bus and sometimes three trains,
from where? Where'd you grow up?
Queens Village.
Uh-huh.
So literally, it was like one town in from Nassau County. I mean, I was like as far technically in the city, but it was just amazing. But I just knew I always wanted to do music. And of course, I saw, the movie Fame, and I wanted to be like, oh, I want to be a little bit about that. And then I remember going with my dad to check out, the school. And I remember seeing these musicians. Some of them were playing jazz. Some of them were playing this like funk. I don't know what it was, but I was just like, I need to be a part of this. So anyway, so Queens Village, I went to a Catholic school for 8 years, and I looked totally adorable in my blue and gray uniform, wore it every day, and this is what I knew. Um, I and I didn't have a lot of friends who were different than me. That's just my truth. So when I got there, the very first thing I remember clear as day is seeing these, I think there were two guys, but then later I saw two girls almost wearing the identical outfit, but it was mohawks all the way up, purple, green, whatever, these combat boots, ripped up clothing, whatever. I loved it. I thought it was like the coolest thing. I was a little bit scared. I was a little bit nervous, but I loved it. I totally loved it. But it was very jarring.
Mhm.
But
Well, why did your parents let you go?
I think that they knew that I was really motivated. The options that I had were going to be the local high school,
Mhm.
which was not that great of a school.
Yeah.
And the other alternative was this Catholic all-girls high school. It just didn't seem to be a great fit.
Yeah.
And I think that my family, and I think that they would still believe this to this day, when I put my mind to something and when I really feel motivated and excited about something, there's no stopping me. So it was almost like I didn't even complain. Like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Like I have to get up so early. No. Okay, so this is what I need to do? Oh, okay, great. And I just did it. And I just
Oh, and it was what, an hour and a half each way?
pretty much, yeah.
That's
And I had
3 hours.
to be, most of the classes, if I remember, was like 8 a.m. And I remember if I didn't get on that first bus, or like, it was always it was a little tricky. And then when we moved downtown, so when we were LaGuardia, it was a little bit less of a commute, but not much.
Right. You still had to get into the city and get over to the west side, and there's a
Correct,
whole McGill,
correct,
as they say in
correct.
Queens Village.
But I know that going to music and art in LaGuardia was for sure one of the very best things that has happened, and have those opportunities. I think it helped create me. Part of like my identity is sort of like all wrapped up in that, and that's
Oh,
okay.
how did your identity come about in those years, and what did you find, and what's stuck
Um,
with you?
well, I definitely think, looking back, going to a specialized school where I felt that I was being nourished and supported and encouraged had, definitely that ripple effect that made me feel better about myself. Um, I still am friendly with a bunch of our alumni, which I know is very almost unheard of in this day and age. And I feel so blessed. And what's amazing? First of all, you are amazing, my friend, for doing this and putting this together. Facebook, I know it gets a bad rap. I know it gets a bad rap, and it can be ugly and annoying and ugh. For me, Facebook has allowed me to reconnect with so many other people like yourself, and other, even like some family that lives far away. It became like this little buffer, and it's just been wonderful. I can't even say enough about it.
Well, that's amazing. You're very kind. You're very kind. But tell me, when you got to, first of all, it's been amazing to hear similar stories about people who, and this is certainly my experience, coming to M&A or PA, wherever we started. there was the sense that I found my people. Right? And
Yes.
that's an experience that many people don't get until they go off to college, until they graduate, until they move somewhere else, until they, I don't know, join the circus, whatever it is that they
Correct.
do. But to be, 14 years old or maybe even 13 years old and to go to high school that first day and feel within 5 or 10 minutes, these people are different, but they're my people. That's
Yes.
really incredibly
I
powerful.
I concur completely. Yeah, it's very hard to even verbalize it. Um, it's just remarkable. But I just know that I grew so much as a person, just like, I mean, again, looking back, analyzing Maureen's life, of just life lessons of like being more accepting. And people can be different and see the world and see things differently, but that's okay.
Well, tell me, so what were some of the experiences once you got there that either challenged you or blew your mind or rocked your world or stretched you in some way?
Um, okay. Well, not that it's a negative, but I feel like often, I'm not sure if it was just the teachers had their agenda or their people in mind for certain things. And I don't remember being given a lot of opportunities to do some specials or to do some solos. And again, I might have to look at that. I mean, I'm not going to dwell on it. But maybe I didn't really push myself, or maybe I was a little nervous. I don't know, but I kind of feel bad that I didn't do more because I love it. Um, and it's funny. I had one of my very favorite classes in the entire world was gospel chorus. Well, this is actually kind of funny. I always was a pretty decent student, thank God. But the one class or subject, I should say, that I could not get out of or I couldn't do was math. So I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but just suffice it to say, it took me 3 years to take a two years school. Okay. So now I'm a junior. And they said to me, I guess the guidance counselors or whomever, well, Maureen, so here's the deal. You can either take trigonometry or gospel chorus. You only needed 2 years of math to graduate. Ding, 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 gospel chorus won out. And it was just amazing. Amazing for me. I loved it. And didn't matter if you were a Christian or not a Christian. And it was funny, some of the friends that I'm still friendly, they were Jewish or whatever, and they just had a ball.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
music. And music is that universal language. And it's just,
What,
yeah.
what was it? What was it like to be in the gospel choir?
Um, I just loved the energy. I learned focus and attention, and um, I just love that high energy. You could probably guess that from me. I'm not exactly a quiet wallflower. I like to be busy. Um, but some of the other classes that I loved was musical comedy class, which, well, a couple of things come to mind. So that was Mrs. Anka, and her big claim to fame was she was the sister-in-law of Paul Anka. And I just thought that was so cool. I was like, oh, wow. My mother always liked Paul Anka. So it was just funny. For me, it was probably the first time that people heard me sing more of the style of singing that I felt best in at that time, which was more, pop or Broadway. Because some of the other, was more quiet, and it was very technical. So I was able to show a side of me, and I remember getting such wonderful feedback from her, but even my peers. That really helped me and just validate me as a performer or a singer. So
Wow. So you had all these different experiences in school, right? Gospel choir, Broadway classical choir
Yes.
in one building.
Yeah.
I wish I'd had that as a musician. I came in on, it was a funny thing they did. I auditioned on piano, they accept you on piano, and then they make you take a string instrument, which
Right.
is, legit. But I always really wanted to learn the discipline of jazz piano. I did classical. And there was a great guy named Justin DeChocho.
Oh, yeah.
DeChocho,
Uh-huh.
who's,
Uh-huh.
he's apparently this legendary teacher who's also up at the Manhattan School of Music. But in the instrumental music department, you were pigeonholed, right?
Oh,
You were,
yeah.
and at the old PA, there wasn't even jazz program, so I was talking with Jay
Oh, wow.
Rodriguez about this, who, he plays classical, he plays jazz, but he didn't really have that opportunity until
Yeah.
got to the new building. So I wish I'd been able to, be in even a beginning rudimentary jazz
Right.
class. That would have been amazing as a
Yes.
pianist. I wish I could have sung gospel choir. I love gospel music.
Yeah.
There's a place in my heart that it just, strikes. It's just really, really deep. But that wasn't the only thing that you did musically. Didn't you also have a Saturday commitment you were telling me?
Yes, which I was just thinking of some of the other teachers that really made such an impact on me. Um, well, Mr. Walsh, who was an English teacher, he loved my writing, which is funny because now that I'm talking about it, I wonder if somehow his influence, or again, that encouragement to kind of keep up with that. But on Saturdays, I was already used to going to the city every day. I was part of the All City Chorus for 4 years. And my last year, I believe, Mrs. Delval took over, and I had her, for a music class, and just what a class act. I
Yeah.
mean,
She's a
just
big deal.
totally. And I liked her so much. And then when she took over from Mr. Motley, who was in charge of the All City Chorus at the time, or they worked together or whatever it just brought a different vibe. But again, because I knew her and I knew her style, I just felt really comfortable. Yeah, it was initially a little weird going to the school, and even All City Chorus, there weren't a lot of white people. And it was interesting.
Yeah.
It was an interesting mix. I never really felt like, oh, this is bad or wrong. It was just, looking back, it was just an unusual experience to have.
Yeah. It's a powerful experience. Yeah, I wish I could say the rest of my life was like that. I wish I could say when I got to college, it was as sort of free crisscrossing as it was in high school, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was much more, probably there were far fewer people of color percentage-wise when I got to college than in high school.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah, sure. And for even though it was billed as a very progressive school,
Yes.
and then for various reasons, people just gathered differently.
Right.
So I look to high school as a very important time in that way. And I wish I had more of those experiences.
But here's the good news for you.
Yeah.
You can create them, and you are creating them by even some of these interviews. So look at you.
That's true. There's a system, right? We're all trying to figure out how to change that system, but perhaps each of us can do our small part.
And sometimes it is just the little things. We want to change the world, and I love what Mother Teresa used to say.
Yeah.
You want to change the world? Love your family. I mean, and that might sound like, okay, but are we even really doing that? We really got to think about it. We're all that little ripple in the ocean to make some differences. Mm-hmm. You're doing a great job.
Schlepping along, as we say. Let's talk about your work for a second, because you told me you work primarily with children with autism.
Yes.
So what's that like? I mean, probably one of the, kind of generationally for us, it'd be interesting to talk to people and ask them, well, what's your experience with autism and with the spectrum? Mm-hmm. And because when we were in high school, I mean, I think there was awareness of autism, but it was incredibly marginal. And
for sure.
I think the understanding of what autism was really extreme.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
yeah, but now, so many people, know people, friends, family, perhaps themselves, and understand that there's a spectrum, and maybe their friends are on it, maybe they're on it, maybe their kids, maybe their parents are on it.
Yes. Yes.
So what's it like for you? What's your work like, and how do you connect with the kids who you work with?
Um, I've been doing it so long, and also it has become second nature. There's so much good because, and this is so corny, so I'm so sorry, but sometimes it is like we mentioned before, those little steps in the right direction, or when you have a kid who can barely give you eye contact, and all of a sudden he looks right at you and says, "Hi." It never gets old for me. Um, I love being a part of something. I like the little kids, even though it's hard because you really have to. It's all about behaviors. So you get the behaviors under control, then we could work on the academics. But I love seeing them through, and then by the time they're going to middle school, it's like you almost can't even believe that this kid was the same kid who was literally laying on the floor, would refuse to get up, tantrum the entire day, barely talked, and is now still impaired, still have some issues, but is not is not doing all those negative things. um you know what, but honestly, I feel like I'm a little burned out.
Sure.
It is really challenging, as wonderful as it has been. There are days where it's like, you know, the human nature is we want to see progress. We want things yesterday, right? And sometimes it's having that patience and really, you don't have a lot of downtime. You got to stay focused. You got to, stick with it. It's a lot of work. But one of the things that I have done, not only when I was doing my internship, when I was doing my master's in counseling, but even after, probably one of my favorite things that I've had the opportunity to do is I facilitated our parent and sibling support group.
Mm.
And that, oh my goodness, it was wonderful. First of all, for me, I had to kind of quiet that voice in my head that would say, like, I have to have these answers. I have to figure stuff out because I'm a fixer. But no, I learned it's just okay. I'm just going to be a listening ear,
Mm.
and just to reassure that you're not alone.
Mhm.
That alone impacted people, and it was just great that I could also be a resource, for some extracurricular things for their kids or whatever. It was just wonderful. It was wonderful.
What do you see change in the parents when they realize that, because you're seeing the kids in school, the parents have them at home, and these children who don't probably do very few things typically, if any.
Yes.
The parents carry the weight of that anxiety. What's going to happen to my kid? How are they going to turn out? What kind of world is there going to be for them? Um, can you describe what it's like for them, that moment when they realize through interacting with you or through seeing a success in their kid or whatever, that they're not alone, and at least
Mhm.
this little thing is going to be okay? What's that like to
I
see?
th- I think it's literally it's a step-by-step process. They are completely overwhelmed.
You know,
They're completely, I used this word before, but they're really shell-shocked.
hmm
There's a great poem written specifically for parents of special needs, and it's called Welcome to Holland. And
Yes.
basically, have you heard it?
I don't know who wrote it, but the woman,
Emily something, I can't remember, but
there,
yeah.
there's a woman who, this, I'm just turning it on to me, which I
Yeah.
promised I wouldn't do. But in my
Okay. No, it's fine.
in our little town here in Western Massachusetts, there is a woman, I forgot her name, who wrote a memoir early 2000s about her son, who is my son's age, and they knew each other and hung out a little bit. Um, Patricia, oh, I forget her last name. She no longer lives in my little town. But
Okay.
what she wrote in her book was that, you know, most parents of typical kids, if, by the way, this is 20 years ago, so maybe, so
Right.
that whole idea,
Right.
I have to shelve that and come up with new language. But,
Right.
but what
Right.
she wrote is that, typically parents will talk about raising their kids in a certain way, and it looks like a certain country. And when I talk to them, it's like, welcome to Holland. Everything is different. So
Yeah.
anyway, I think she, I don't know if she coined that phrase, but she made use of it in this
But
memoir.
for those who are not aware, and it's one of my favorites. It's basically, I mean, it's not just specifically for parents of children with disabilities, but again, it's really about all of us. We have expectations in our lives, but these parents, they have this plan. They have this hope that their kid's going to be healthy and happy and just what every parent wants.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what the poem talks about and what these parents see, and they have to get acceptance.
Mhm.
Acceptance really is key to all of their problems and to all of their issues, because once there's this acceptance that, okay, so wait, let me get this straight. This is not exactly how I thought or what I wanted, but wait, I am going to embrace the beauty and the skills that this child has. I'm gonna build upon that. And once they are able to make that shift, it's remarkable.
Mm, mm,
When the year first starts, you have lots of crying and you have lots of just, oh my God, why me? And all that, which is totally okay.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
I I try to be a person who lives in a solution.
mhm, mhm,
I can whine and complain like the best of them. Don't.
mhm,
I'm not gonna. I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth. But what I've come to realize is that for my own life, or if I'm talking to you, we're discussing something, or and these parents, okay, you're allowed to feel whatever you're feeling.
mhm.
But if it's not helping you or anybody else, we have to consider looking at it differently.
Yeah.
And again, so it's just very gently guiding them.
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm. Are you able to help parents maybe understand that, unlike what they fantasize about, or maybe what they've experienced with their kids, where their kids sort of go up the developmental ladder, that for their children with special needs, that it's going to be zigzaggy and forward and back and nonlinear? Are you able to sort of convey that, if not, directly in other ways?
I hope that my approach um, is really all about that. Yeah, this is your situation.
Mhm.
This is, as we started our talk today, life sometimes is not a straight line, and there are zigzags. And who are you going to show up
Mhm.
in the midst of this stress? Who are you going to be when things don't exactly turn out the way you were hoping or thought?
Yeah.
So I would hope, or my intention has always been, uh, let's try to get you on as straight of a path so you feel contented and calm. But I'm here for the duration, and I'm here for the ride. So hold on tight if things kind of move in a direction that you were not sure. And again, it's really pushing and that constant reminder that it's okay and you're not alone. And I think we all kind of need that reminder. I know I do.
I would imagine that the parents really respond to you, because they may feel, as you said, overwhelmed, or not. And I don't want to assume how
Mhm.
parents come to this, but it's clear to me that, and I don't know if this is part of your arts background or just you, or maybe you in your arts background, but you're able to sort of very authentically inhabit that place of saying to them, I'm here to help. This takes time. We're in it together. you know, I imagine parents feel a lot of reassurance
Oh,
and
I would hope
around
so.
yeah.
I would hope so, and that makes me happy to hear that. I thank you for saying that. I feel really, really blessed with all these many opportunities, whether it was doing music specifically, or counseling, or behavioral work, or just in a classroom setting, matching pictures. Whatever role I'm in, I've been able to incorporate some music in those different jobs. um, just trying to keep things light. The world sometimes is a serious place, and I just try to be a little bit of a light, a little bit of a, let's try to see the positive. I'm all about that. Even if you have to look a little harder, what you look for, you're going to find. Sometimes it's easy to see the yucky.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to see the ugh. But if you wade through, you're going to find the good. It's there.
Yeah.
But I've been very lucky that I've had so many different kinds of positions that it really has encapsulated some of my priorities. I'm able to help people make a difference. And I know, again, forgive me, that sounds so corny, but that's from a very young age. I really felt like, okay, like maybe the question was posed to me, like, what do you want to do? Or what are you about? I want to do music, and I want to help people and make a difference. And I feel so privileged that I have these opportunities that I already mentioned, but even with my family and with friends and coworkers, neighbors, I just try to be the very best me that I can be.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, and it's a beautiful note to end on. And
Thank you.
I wish you well as you finish out this year, and look
Thank
forward
you.
to many enriching and beautiful and growthful things in the year ahead. Most importantly, the ability to go out in public and be safe and be with
Yes.
your family and in all those ways. But thank you. I think you've given us so much wisdom and inspiration. Thank you for sharing about your life, and look forward
Thank
to
you.
in the future.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank